Hello, everyone, and welcome to an episode of the Jonah Keen Show on Radio DePaul. Welcome one and welcome all. For those who are tuning in for the very first time, you may be curious as to what the Jonah Keen Show is all about. Well, I'll tell you. Ever since I was a teenager, I've had an absolute passion for giving advice. Some kids did sports, some kids did theater, some kids did math club, but I did advice. In fact, I've been a certified advice giver for almost 10 years now. Good job, me. On the Jonah Keen Show, I'll be interviewing folks who have a wide range of expertise and advice to share. Also on the show, there will be some opportunities to call into the station and ask for your own personalized advice. Maybe you need some relationship advice. What about pet advice? Maybe you need some financial advice. Maybe you just need some good old-fashioned self-help advice. We take all kinds of requests for advice. My name is Jonah, Mr. Advice Keen, and welcome to the Jonah Keen Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Jonah Keen Show here on RadioDePaul.com, or is it .net? It's RadioDePaul.com, not .net. Hope everyone is doing well. Finals are coming up. I'm sure everyone's nervous. I'm sure everyone's working on their papers, working on their homework. Do not fret. You will make this. You will get through this. And you're hearing that from me, Jonah, Mr. Advice Keen. So it's pretty much a promise. You will get through this, and you won't fail any of your finals. And you can count on me for that. Okay. We have a few things to do today before we get into my 2 interviews we're doing today. That's right. We're doing actually 2 interviews today. And there's a little theme you'll see. Just give me 1 second. First things first, I'd like to say that this is the last episode of this DePaul quarter of the Jonah Keen Show. But I shall return. I will come back in the winter quarter, so that means in January, to deliver more advice. And that will actually be not on Thursdays, but on Wednesdays from 3:30 to 4. So there'll be a little change. Hopefully everyone can adjust and mark your calendars. Erase Thursdays and put it on Wednesdays from 3:30 to 4, back when school starts up in January. So we have a little bit to wait. I need to go on my holiday break, much like everyone else here, and much like everyone who's listening. Also, the Jonah Keen podcast YouTube channel is still up and running. It's doing great numbers. I've been looking at them and studying them, and they're doing great. And to kind of recap of what happened last week, I actually got my very own book deal from Damian J. Trout from Small Samuels Publishing. We had a little book deal. I kind of secretly interviewed him. And I wasn't supposed to actually broadcast the Zoom interview he did, but I ended up broadcasting that, and it turned out great. I ended up getting the book deal, and it's going pretty well. I'm actually just working out some of the kinks with him now, and hopefully we'll have that book out in January, hopefully, and you'll be able to access my book, Advice, a book by Jonah Keen. And also, last week, unfortunately, I kind of had an argument with my mentor figure, Michael Hamilton. So if you want to listen to that, you can go into the YouTube channel, the Jonah Keen Podcast YouTube channel, and listen in and hear everything that went down. There's a lot that happened, but none of that matters today. Today, I've decided, is all about finances and getting your financial advice in game, your financial advice game up to par with all the financial experts around the globe. You're going to want to listen in close, folks. For the holiday season is approaching us, and if you want to have enough money to give gifts to your ex-wife and children, then you're going to want to write these advice pointers in your favorite notebook, the one where you keep all your advice in. And in fact, I have not 1 but 2 special guests for today's episode. I just said that earlier, but just making sure everyone heard. 2 guests today. And the first guest, hopefully, is in the Zoom call, is an old friend of mine when I lived in Oregon City, Oregon. So about 2 years ago at this point, I was living in Oregon City, Oregon, one of my favorite places in the whole world. And one of my close friends there, Joshua Rapley, lived with me. Well, not lived with me, but he was kind of my neighbor. And he lived in Canby, Oregon. which was right next to Oregon City. If you don't know the area that well. Anyways, let's see if he is in the Zoom call. Hopefully he's up right now. He's usually sleeping at this hour of the day. Josh. Okay, we are now on the line with Josh Rapley, one of my closest and oldest friends. How are you doing today, Josh?
Oh, Jonah, I couldn't be more refreshed. You just woke me up. I had the sleep of my life. Really looking to tackle the day. How are you?
I'm great. Um,
I
and the
like
re
hearing that.
it is really good, and I'm actually on the line with you today to talk about something that um, I'm facing and you are facing as well. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, lack of money, lack
hmm
of income, to be more specific. I know you're in between jobs right now, and I'm currently a student without a career in mind. And so I would like you to share some advice on how to,
hmm
well, pretty much save money while in college. So a lot of college students who are listening, take notes, take this advice, and
Get those notebooks out.
get those notebooks out. That's right. And hopefully they can learn a thing or two about saving money while in school with Josh Rapley.
You know, I. It's funny um, when you find yourself in these situations. Well, one thing is my wife has been staying at her sister's.
Oh, so
With the
sorry.
kids, I know, but it gives me a lot of time to think and to meditate and to, one of my favorite things is using your Zen and ASMR techniques that we've learned and we all know, we've all grown to love. And, but there are those times when you open the fridge and it's like, what? Ketchup? You been there, uh, Jonah?
I have been there. I've been in a similar situation. Just last night, I opened the fridge, and not only was there ketchup, there was also some tortillas, and I ended up making a tortilla ketchup quesadilla. And actually, it wasn't half bad. But actually, the question, you're actually leading me in the perfect direction, Josh Rapley. My first question: what are a few different nutritional meals you can cook on a tight student budget, or in your case, in between jobs budget?
Jonah, it is pretty unfortunate when you're with your friends. They all want to go to McDonald's or something, and in the back of your head, you're like, oh no, I'm out of money. What do I do? I don't want to ask my friends. So then you just leave, and then you go home and you whip out my recipe book, which I'm thinking about writing, and there are some good recipes. In fact, you set yourself up. Um, Here's the thing. Set yourself up a 12-point plan for each week. First point is count your money. Go through your whole dorm, through your whole apartment, your car, your drawers in your bathroom, in between carpets, in the couch cushions. Look for all those coins. Collect them all. Some of them might be worth something. And then what you do is then you budget for the whole week. You can get, like, if you want to talk about tortillas and ketchup, that's one of the building blocks to a good meal is tortillas. You can put anything in there. So you take a couple quarters, go down to your local bodega, or you're in Chicago. So what kind of corner stores do you have over there?
We have, well, this is a big one, but Jewel Osco is one of the biggest grocery stores in the area, as well as the typical Target, CVS Pharmacy, 7-Eleven, etc. So something along those lines is usually best.
Oh, okay. Well, let's say you're going to walk over to Target and you want to go to the top ramen section, top ramen aisles, and that's where you can find a lot of good additions to, it's like 10 cents per bag. You can take out the filling, you can eat it raw, you can eat the filling raw, but what I really like to do is take some of that, make a little bit of top ramen, and uh, fold it up in a nice burrito, if you have some leftover cheese, if it's that one really thin slice that's been sitting in the fridge forever, just cut off, the corners where the mold is. That's fine. The cheese is still fine. And throw it in your air fryer, or if you don't have one, you can put it on the burner on your stove and heat it up for a little bit, or put it in the microwave. And then enjoy it. It tastes so good when you know that it's your own money. You made this yourself. You slaved in the kitchen, and that's day one.
Wow, that is some great advice. And is there any other recipes that you'd like to reveal to us that might be in your upcoming book?
Yeah, I have a great one. Let's see. Oh, chicken. We all love chicken. Everything tastes like chicken, right, Jonah?
You're so right. Everything.
We're always saying that. My mom was saying that. Cheryl says that. Um, but what I really like to do is I go to the local discount grocery store, like Grocery Outlet or whatever's in Chicago, Dollar General. You go to the chicken aisle, specifically where all the cans are, and there are whole chickens in a can.
What? What?
You can put an entire chicken in a can, all the broth, all the fixins, the gizzards, and the legs, and you just take out all the bones. So you got just chicken meat sitting in there, and it's a nice little bath of chicken broth and salt and so you take one of those cans, stick it in a pot, maybe add a couple, bags of top ramen, and then you just throw all that in a tortilla and put it in your air fryer or your on the burner on your stove or microwave. Or if all those things are down in your apartment, just knock on your neighbor's door, and I'm sure they've got something, and they would love the smell that you leave behind, and maybe you guys could form a new friendship. Maybe they've got some drinks, a couple of Pepsis or Cokes, Coke Zero.
Mmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mmm.
Um, I often wonder how well I would do if I was back in college. Maybe I wouldn't be between jobs right now, but I know that I would definitely be good on the food front.
It sounds like you would. You seems like well, it's exactly why I have you on the show. You have tons of advice when it comes to cheap meals for students or if you're in between jobs, and I really appreciate it. I actually have another question, kind of unrelated to.
Shoot.
I'll shoot it right at you in 1 second once I explain. It's not exactly regarding food. It's more about when you're tight on money. What would be some of the first things to go if you had to sell some of your stuff for cash? Like, for instance, if I had a suitcase full of stuff, what would I sell first? What makes top priority if I'm trying to make some quick cash?
Oh, yeah. First, what you want to do is you want to go through all your photo albums and collect all the pictures of your family and just take them to Goodwill and sell them. It's a great moneymaker. Goodwill's always looking for great family photos, and other families can get to hang them on their walls and enjoy them. People who don't have families, a lot of single guys out there who are just sitting alone in their apartments, and all they do is look at TV, and maybe they want to look at their wall. They don't want it to be a bare wall. They want to have a family there.
Right.
Other things are, you know, you could pretend to be going to do laundry at a laundromat and then wait for that one person next to you to leave and, take their clothes and sell them. They don't need them. They just left them there.
I never thought of that. That's actually really good. Um, I have had the opportunity, but I'm an honest Jonah when it comes to that sort of thing. But I guess that would be a good way of making some money. So I appreciate the advice. One more question for you.
Also a good team activity, too. If you get a couple friends to distract, the people around you and get those clothes.
Exactly. That's perfectly. It's a perfect little snippet of advice.
And high five afterward, too. Celebrate.
That is also good advice. Um, Here's one last little question for you.
All right.
What's a quick and easy way to make money while in school? Because you can't get a job. So, actually, we kind of already covered this question. But is there any like little other snippets you'd give us? Like any any other pieces of advice just to make some quick and easy cash while you're in school?
What I like to do is I like to make maps and of around town, and where people might think there might be treasure, but those can come at a good price if people are, college kids are desperate for fun and exploration. They're young and stupid, so they'll buy anything. So you just draw a little map, put little couple X's, and say this is where the treasure is, and sell them on the local corner, and we got a good $5 or $10 at the end of the day for you.
That is really smart. Once again,
It's at least 3 cans of chicken with that kind of money.
you are entirely correct. That is actually really smart, and it's exactly why I brought you onto the show. You have expert advice when it comes to poverty. I really appreciate everything you've done for the show, so thank you very much.
Jonah, I really appreciate you too. If we were in the same room, I'd be giving you a fist pump. But we're not there, so
Yeah, I know it's been a while since I've been with you. Ever since I moved here from Oregon City, Oregon, it's been hard to keep in touch with you, but I'm glad we're talking here today, and our friendship once again is we're pretty much reunited. So I really appreciate you coming on the show also.
I'm really happy I got to be on here, Jonah. I really miss you. Oregon misses you. Cheryl and the boys.
Yeah? Do they miss me too?
Mm-hmm. I'll get them to send a card at some point. Gotta maybe text Cheryl at some point today, but I did just wake up, so gotta get coffee made. But this was almost like a big old cup of coffee, just being on the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Josh Rapley. You take care and have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow. Josh actually had a lot of great financial advice for all the college folks out there, especially when it comes to certain meals. It was really good. That was really good. Thank you, Josh. And thank you for the poverty advice as well. Also happy to hear that he got some much needed sleep, because I know for certain Cheryl and him do not get along too often. So I'm glad she's out of the house right now. He deserved a much needed break from her. Anyways, my next guest is an absolute expert when it comes to financial advice, specifically for Generation Z. I'm talking about all of you guys, DePaul students. I'm talking about all of you. His name is James Bowman. James Bowman? James Borman? I can't remember exactly how to pronounce his name, but he's kind of a celebrity in the wide world of advice. Why is he so famous, you might be asking? Because he has his own podcast. Of course, the Gen Z Mon-E podcast is a real podcast, which you can listen to right now over on wherever you get your podcast. His podcast is all about Generation Z and financial advice when it comes to being a Gen Zer. Let's give a warm round of applause to James Bowman. No, James Bowman. James Borman. He's shaking his head no. Is it Borman or is it Bowman?
It's Bowman.
Bowman. James Bowman of the Gen Z Mon-E podcast with James Bowman. How are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing, Jonah. How are you, man?
I'm doing all right. It's been kind of a rough day, but that's okay. Are you ready to talk about yourself, about what you do? I have a few questions lined up.
Absolutely, man.
Wonderful.
Absolutely. Yeah, I 100% agree with you, man.
I do have a quick question about why you chose Gen Z. Why did you specifically choose Gen Z for your podcast? Gen Z Mon-E, not millennial money or boomer money.
Yeah, you know what, man? I'm so glad you asked that question, because a lot of people might think it's just because I am Gen Z, and that is a part of it, right? But the other part is when you talk or at least me personally, when you talk about finances, especially with the older generation, there's always one common theme that almost all of them say. It's, I wish I started early. I take that and I say, like, they are talking about me. They are talking about my generation. We should be starting right now. And so that's why I choose to try and target them, because not only am I Gen Z, so it's a lot easier to hear it from your peers instead of like someone that's older than you. But it's also because when you think about things like compound interest and exponential growth, the earlier you start, the better.
Very good answer to a very good question. Um, Here's something. If maybe a listener might have gone into a divorce recently, what would be a good financial decision, especially if they're not maybe making money right now?
Gotcha. I guess that's kind of a loaded question because you don't really understand. It Divorce is it's a very taboo topic when it comes to finances, especially because there's a saying, it's like a divorce turns a marriage into a business transaction, right? So you
Mm.
want to get the best deal you can. With that being said, you also have to understand that there's so much emotions tied up into it. I have a buddy right now who's going through that process, and I'm talking to him, trying to coach him through a little bit, at least on the finance side.
Mm.
But what would I tell them? I mean, I'm always trying.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm saying that like it's someone else is asking the question. It's really me. Well, actually, I went through the divorce and that happened. And now I'm kind of trying to win her back, maybe by using some financial advice of some kind. And so I'm kind of asking on that end, how do I perhaps uh, get enough finances where it's impressive and makes me possibly more attractive?
I'm gonna be honest. I think you're asking the wrong question. I
What would be the right question?
The question would be like, how do I make myself better as a whole? Because finances is kind of just one it's one arm of an octopus,
It was
right?
one of the reasons it was one of the reasons why we split apart. I was focusing more on the podcast than getting a job.
Gotcha. Well, what I would say is, I'm gonna say it's not too late, but you have to understand, when it comes to marriage and money, you guys have to be on the same page. And with that being said, there are things that you have to prioritize when it comes to finances. And I find, especially with women, at least in my own marriage, is my wife, she really values security. And so I guess my question to you is, what is the financial number that provides security to the spouse or the mate you're trying to attract? And a part of that is getting a job. It is learning a new skill. It is, and as an entrepreneur, it's really, really hard because you want to pour all of your time and all of your energy into something and build it up. But you have to think practically and realize that you have a life to support outside of that. It's a really hard question to answer.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I did put you on the spot, but what I'm getting from this and what the listeners should be writing down if you're listening, be on the same side, collaborate, share your opinions, thoughts on what's a safe number, the amount of money. Is that a good summary of what you said?
Yeah, because let's just use an example, right? For my household, in order to operate our household normally, we spend about $3,000 a month on expenses. With that being said,
$3,000.
yeah. So with that being said,
Writing that down.
I should be providing at least $3,000 a month. Now, if that means working 40 hours a week instead of 30, then that's a trade-off you have to have. It just gives them a safe feeling like, okay, as long as the house is taken care of, all of the bills are taken care of, if they want to spend their excess energy in other places, whether it's creating a business, having a podcast, or balancing it in a different area, you get the best of both worlds. It's the danger comes when you prioritize building something that's insecure over providing for the household.
Great stuff. Continuing forward, so this is more, that's, I guess, advice for some people who are already married. But what if you're trying to prove that you've learned that you can make these sacrifices and collaborate on financial advice similar to the advice you give on Gen Z money? How could I prove to someone that I have now gained this knowledge and I'm willing to move forward financially and emotionally in marriage?
I think that's the easy part. I think that in that instance, actions speak louder than words.
That's good. So actions speak louder than words. That's the summary of James Bowman's words right there.
Yep.
How about making the financials? Is there any advice you would make towards any certain investment? What kind of investments would possibly make money quicker so I could maybe get home? Win back my wife for a chance. What are some ways to make not a get rich scheme, but a get rich opportunity quickly?
Gotcha. I mean, I think you're asking me, you're asking the wrong person that question, because
Well, you are Gen Z money, and I'm 24, so does that mean I'm Gen Z?
You are Gen Z.
So I am your target audience, so you have to give me an answer.
Yeah. But it's not going to be the answer you want. Because
just give me your best shot. Come on.
Well, okay. Best shot is start selling NFTs. I think if you can create and sell NFTs, then that's a great money making opportunity. But otherwise, man, it's all about putting in work. It's putting in those 60-hour, 80-hour days, learning new skills. I mean, it's all about, at this point, what you're trying to get at is proving yourself. And so the best way to do that is to put your head down and work. It's not a get rich quick thing, but it's a get rich for sure thing. It's a get stable for sure. And it takes sacrifice.
So I heard two things there. Either sell NFTs or put your head in the weeds and work some 80-hour work days.
Yeah, 80-hour work weeks. I mean,
80-hour work days. Very inspirational. And in fact, that's what you do on your podcast, right? The Gen Z Mon-E podcast with James Bowman. You're not only giving this expert advice, we'll also thank you for coming on the show, but also just very inspirational of what you're saying. I don't really have any other questions. If you have anything else to say to my viewers who are advice heads out there, if you have any last words or anything to say.
Gotcha. I guess I would close with saying, once you create such a positive aura around you, so many different opportunities start to come your way, whether it's financially, emotionally, spiritually, or however you get happiness out of life. So that's always my advice to give people. Always be that positive aura, because great things come from it.
Oh, that is some great advice. And honestly, just great, not just financial advice, but just life advice, Zen advice. Thank you so much. And you're hearing that from Mr. Advice, Jonah, Mr. Advice Keen yourself. You're hearing that from me.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that, Jonah.
Oh, no problem. All right. Thank you, James Bowman, once again. Thank you, 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 thank you for coming onto the show.
Oh, and then he just left. Well, take care now, James. He is an absolute sweetheart. And dare I say genius? Dare I say genius? I say genius. I think genius is the correct word, but that's just my opinion. All right, folks. Usually I would end at 4, but I actually have one more thing I'm going to do today. It's something I know the holidays are coming up and everyone loves going home for the holidays, going to Thanksgiving, going to Christmas, and experiencing the holidays with your family. But some people, like myself, might get into some arguments with your family. You might not get along per se. And since this is my last show before the holidays, before Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's, which are all family traditions in the Keen household, I'm unfortunately gonna have to visit my family during those times. And during those times, I think I'm gonna try to make the best of it and try to make sure that the whole time, the whole experience is a positive experience. So I have decided to give some advice when it comes to getting along with your family during the holidays. If you hate your family, here are some tips to survive the holidays when you hate your family. Okay, the first bit of advice I would give is to acknowledge that you hate your family. Acknowledge the dread. It's this mental flip. Acknowledging it is key. It takes off the often unconscious pressure you may feel to get along with a difficult relative, and lets you switch focus on how to best survive the event. So acknowledge the dread. Second piece of advice: prepare yourself before seeing your family. Take a minute to think about what they do that irritates or hurts you. For example, my father, Terry Keen, he loves the Chicago Bulls, which I hate to say it, they're not a good football team, not in the slightest. So especially when it comes to the Pacers, compared to the Pacers, they are garbage. And so for that example, I'll say I have to address that head on and say, okay, I'm not going to talk about football or basketball or any sports because my father, Terry Keen, from Terry Keen Automotive, it will turn into a rant and it will get very irritating for me. So you kind of just need to prepare yourself ahead of time. Make some mental notes. Do not talk about sports because Terry Keen will burn my Pacer pillow. Well, that's what happened last time. Hopefully it doesn't happen this time. What else? Focus on the good stuff is another tip I would give. Instead of thinking about, oh my goodness, they're going to burn my Pacer pillow. They're going to talk about sports and trash the Indianapolis Pacers. Go Pacers. Focus on the good stuff. Focus on maybe my dad's cooking might get a little better this year. Maybe the turkey won't be burnt, or maybe the mashed potatoes will be extra creamy. Or maybe you'll see one of your favorite cousins, Gavin Luke, at Thanksgiving or Christmas, and maybe you'll have some more business advice to share. That's just something I had in mind. Another tip would be manage your alcohol intake. I don't really drink. I'm not a drinker, but also I just keep your inhibitions, stay focused, and just make sure you don't say anything that might get you in trouble. For example, me bringing up the Pacers, which could get me in trouble with my father. Next is distracting yourself. Maybe you've had a little too much family time. Maybe you've sat around the table a little too long. Maybe you've talked to Gavin Luke, your cousin Gavin Luke, a little too much, and you're starting to get a little irritated. I would say distract yourself. Maybe read a book, watch a movie, go for a drive, take a walk, take a run, or even listen to old episodes of the Jonah Keen Show only on either radiodepal.com or the Jonah Keen Podcast YouTube channel. Link in the description, but I don't know if there's a description on Radio DePaul. Anyways, here's one last tip I think would suffice if you hate your family this much. I obviously don't, because I'm going to go to Thanksgiving and Christmas. But the final tip I would say is don't see your family at all. Know your boundaries, and if you know that you will get attacked, emotionally attacked, verbally insulted, etc., it may be best to avoid being around family and seek support elsewhere until those expectations can be met. I think that's some great advice, but I don't know. It really is up to whoever is listening and however you decide to go about these sort of things. Okay, I think that's about all for today's show. I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday break. I sure will try my best, but by the time the holiday break is over and I come back here to the Radio DePaul studio, I will hopefully have a lot to talk about, a lot to share when it comes to my book advice. I will hopefully be wrapping up the last minute details on my book with Damien, and we should be able to get the book into your guys' paws in January if things come into fruition. Anyways, hope everyone has a good time with finals. Hope everyone has a great holiday break. I sure will. And I'll hopefully see everyone in January. Have a happy holiday, everyone.